your first question was specifically what?
Any relationship that I know between any members of the House of White over the years
And
with
Stratovask?
Stratovask
Uh,
specifically. Yeah.
there really isn't many. There isn't much interaction there because the House of Brass is incredibly active within the academy and wants to hold on to everything that could possibly be done there. Um, and the closest interaction that you have, I believe, is the house. Like small interactions between those two houses, between the House of White functioning out of Rainhome, and there's been no really prolonged interactions other than like some trade discussions and maybe certain very certain talented sorcerers among the House of White being given leave to study at Stratovask.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so you're going to be able to get, um, I think, two more questions off of that.
Can I throw something in there that apparently might be common knowledge because I'm looking at it over like the Blooded Houses, like the document that you have.
Right.
So interestingly enough, you're saying that the House of Brass is the ones that kind of like has themselves all up into Stratovask right
I
now.
might mix up brass and bronze. I think I do that all the time.
Bronze is Stratovask.
Okay, then
By the way.
bronze. My bad. My bad.
Okay,
Right.
never mind then.
Yeah, no, that's just me mixing up the two. Yeah, the House of Brass is the southern one. That's the engineering one, right?
I
No,
thought
House
it
of
was
Brass, the
bronze.
engineering one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Oh.
I've got it. I've got it in my head now. Right. So in the House of Bronze,
The House of Bronze does have ties with the Trexian Wastes, if I remember correctly.
limited, yes. Not as much as the House of White, so there might be a little bit of brokering through with that, but
That was going to be my next question was what's the relationship dynamic between the House of White and the House of Bronze?
um it's one out of like they both know what each other does best, and what they both do best is what the other one does worse. So oftentimes they're like, we need protection for this sort of caravan that's out here, or we want to do an expedition to the Northlands. And so it's like this whole sort of like kind of back and forth trade where there's just an awareness that the skills of both houses complement each other, but not a real sort of alliance other than
Yeah,
that.
but they're not actively like hostile towards each other. There's no
Uh,
like history of them fighting or anything like that.
Not particularly. The House of Brass is
Not brass, bronze, bronze one.
bronze. The House of Bronze is very much insular in terms of like holding on to their region and just wanting to be like, we want to do as much research and get as much funding and like as much just funneled into Stratovask, almost to the exception of everything else.
Okay.
There has been agreements that the House of Bronze has had, so with the people of the Traxian Vase, so exchanging access of the mages to have reach into trade relations and regions into the north.
That's
I
not
don't
amongst the Traxian Waste, that's amongst the Demon Spine.
was the Demon Spine to get access to the Traxian Vase through the Demon Spine.
You have another question, Nick?
How many do I get? I get three total.
Three total, you've used two.
Just in my, I guess, in my general studies, do I know of any rivals that Stratovask has had issues with more than others? Like something that would stick
Um,
out that I'd be like, this is what they might focus first.
you are very aware of particularly the Knights of the Golden Oath, being directly being very much associated with the crown, having stationed amongst Stratovask, based on their study of conjuration magic. As basically what this group is anti caster paladins. that essentially the king said, we're posting a unit constantly here, which is very much seen as a lack of trust and a sort of like flex of like political power that's been going on there, as well as there's been a lot of the other sort of like sorceress houses that have always tried to sort of like undermine Stratovask in terms of its sort of like how good of a school it is, its prestige and stuff like that, due to the House of Bronze being so closely tied to it. So there's been a lot of that sort of politicking and stuff, which is what it feels like was prompting Monty to finally kind of like call their bluff on these things, to sort of deal with that. But the main political motivation the main political strife would be the posting of basically the royal guard at this school.
Literally the crown itself.
Yeah, being somewhat enforced there, having influence directly there.
So it wouldn't be insane enough. No one would support that sort of conflict.
Cool. So there's those three. Over to Emmy now. What's your initial question?
Are there any houses that are more isolated than the others?
Isolationist houses would be Bronze. Your house, the House of Blue, incredibly isolationist.
Oh, really? I thought it was the opposite. Interesting.
No, they're involved in a lot of things, but they themselves are like, they have agents on agents on agents to do that, so usually the people that are actually doing the actions are like 2 steps removed from the house, particularly. So yeah, they tend to stay inside of their among their like their island holds and sort of move pieces from afar, as it were. I would say the House of Silver is considered isolationist just because it's so small, that they really only deal with like their own region and try and stay out of like larger issues. I would say those are the 3 notable ones. Other than like the House of White, because the House of White took a major hit and has never really fully recovered into getting to the full scope of things. And their focus is on northern defense more than anything. Cool. You get another. Did I say by 10 or 5? I'm gonna say you have another one. Yes.
Okay. What is the relationship with the House of Blue and Stratovask? Is it teetering?
It's strange. It's like a very odd one because the House of Blue brokers their huge information network to provide they take their huge information network and then use that to essentially broker access to the very highly advanced research of Stratovask very often. There's almost always a handful of House Blue agents amongst Stratovask that are on retainer to essentially be like, oh, you have fed this great finding? That's very interesting. There's also been cases of them directly funding various research projects, usually related to divination or weather manipulation magic. Sort of those are the 2 that are like really big interests for the House of Blue. But again, the House of Blue functions at a distance, mostly. So their presence is felt in Stratovask, and Stratovask knows that they can actually contact them and broker stuff with them which is not something a lot of organizations regularly have the capacity to do, since the House of Blue comes to people, people don't come to the House of Blue.
Right.
Whew, okay. A lot of lore that I'm gonna have to backtrack someday.
Would I possibly know, the Draconic research at Stratovask, was
Yes.
it funded by any groups in particular, or was it something that it was just sort of like, this is a direction we're going now?
Okay. The Draconic research. Roll me a just a flat int check with proficiency bonus. I'll give you that.
Alright. And... Oh, proficiency bonus. Proficiency...
So it should be like +3?
4.
4. Perfect. Okay. You...
I can throw 1 adversity token into that.
I suggest
Probably
you don't.
more, if I'm being honest. But
I suggest you don't. Don't worry about it. So you are aware that the research regarding the bloodlines was something that was like regarding like draconic magic and all that sort of stuff has been something that's never been like aggressively funded and aggressively pursued, but it's constantly been occurring. Just kind of always happening. And you're never like it's never been clear as to how this is getting funded in particular, and like how this sort of constant research over that much time has occurred. So it's presumed that this is actively the House of Bronze facilitating this in some manner. Yeah, out of their own sort of like pocket.
Could the issue be with House of Bronze instead of Stratovask itself?
Don't really know much about them.
Exactly.
My family has limited interactions. Not really a house we deal with.
I'm surprised to hear that the House of Bronze is the only other house established in Traxian Waste besides the House of White.
I mean, aside from lending aid on certain expeditions, we don't really deal with them.
Unfortunate.
I love that you guys are like actually trading information, and Emmy's being an actual like House of Blue sorcerer and is like, that's unfortunate. I have so much information. Like
Whatever is in your dream is in your dream. That's not our information. As
I know, I love it. I just love it that I'm like, because like Emmy's like, haha, I'm so like carefree, but it's also like this information is staying with me. Like,
Emmy, keep her cards close to her chest.
that's a good House of
I
Blue
don't
sorcerer
know.
would.
I don't know what would be waiting for us up north. So it seems like we're trying to trace the origins of the dagger and what the cultists could be doing down here. I am terrified to hear that things have changed so much.
Well, he mentioned that there are people that are organizing against the cultists in the south. Perhaps they might have more information, acquired more items than we have. Know more about how they're communicating.
Perhaps we confer with our old friend here. Just, I would say to be careful about trusting anyone here, especially Carmine. I understand he has said he has made separated ties with Montgomery, but they were basically 2 peas in a pod, as it were.
So I don't think I've ever asked this. Were you a student or were you a teacher?
I was a professor of many years' time.
What did you teach?
gravitational magic, I suppose it should
Ah,
be. Yes,
You probably weren't teaching that was probably your own personal project. You'd probably be teaching abjuration, if anything.
Okay.
Which is why you have access and capacity to being able to cast shields so easily.
I actually don't remember out of game because I've never been a wizard before. What is
Abjurer.
abjuration?
That's like protection spells, like alarm, shield, stuff like that.
Shield, counterspell,
cool.
dispel magic.
Kind of stuff.
Essentially, ways for the students to defend themselves. Abjuration, mostly.
Interesting.
It was something I loved very much, actually, but I left my post after a certain time. I believe you remember the curse of the houses. There were rumors of students. I don't like discussing it. Magic's everyone out of hand. Nothing more than rumors and stories, but things that the faculty never quite made public. Wild magic incidents. I don't know if it was kept out, but we lost many students, and the research I initially thought was supposed to be helping in this, but it was for applications of violence, it seemed. In addition to other fields as well, Carmine was always the one looking into bloodlines, but with a purpose of what I was never sure. I saw the writing on the wall of where the research would lead, what it would do to this world, and I packed my things. I said goodbye to my students, and I left to compile research for perhaps another way to do things. I do miss them sometimes, and I do hope my students are doing well.
With a teach like you, I'm sure they are.
That's very kind of you to say. I hope so. And maybe they punch their teachers less than I do.
They're probably quite disciplined, at least.
I would hope so. I made sure of that. Takes a lot of focus to be doing abjuration. You have to have a good control of the self, which can slip at times, but... Do either of you ever miss your home?
Unfortunately not.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I miss things about the North, but I truthfully haven't been away that long. So.
The upbringing of sorcerers is not something I have much knowledge of, but I would hope at least the countryside would be beautiful.
There's a beautiful dock where I grew up that I always liked to sneak around and go and fish sometimes. It was quite pretty. I suppose I missed that if I had to think of anything.
Well, we may be on the ocean sooner than you think.
Sounds beautiful to me.
We should speak with Carmine and see what information we have to do, but our paths will take us either north or south. Let's figure this out.
Robin, if you'd like to join in, feel free. Just because I'm like, they're now talking to Carmine near you, and like you could pop in if you feel.
I wasn't quite
Actually,
sure how long I was talking to the mayor.
Yeah, I'm figuring that like after this, you kind of see them all like huddled up, and you could have come over really easily. Oh, it's a cat.
Hello.
Hello, friend.
Good
You know,
wake up
Abby.
time.
Oh, Reach.
I also love like, hey, do you? It's like, oh, I had this nice little dock, and I'm like thinking about like, what would the Northland be like? And it's like fucking like desolate and like brutal, and Glim's like, yeah.
That's what insane. That's what insane.
You know, you're
I was like,
kind of.
I imagine Glim like the
Like
penguins of Madagascar just like arriving in Antarctica like, this stuff.
It's very flat,
Actually-
very empty, very cold.
Yeah, it's the cold is bracing.
Makes you strong, makes you not pathetic, makes you strong.
I just come over and kind of update everybody, like, well, it seems like the chaos is well under control with the mayor's husband.
That's good.
And I don't know how many of you remembered there was a bounty, but I told them to keep it for what is his name? Sorry.
What for?
Wait.
Joannis?
Yeah, the not Joannis, but the cultist guy,
Oh, Leilong.
Levon. Because all
Sorry, you told them to keep it?
well,
The
it was
bounty. When we killed him.
I was going to say
no,
that's
no, 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 for
That's
the
very noble of you, but you gave it to a cultist?
No.
oh,
It was the bounty for Leilong.
Oh,
Leilong had a bounty on his head. Just to explain this to you all, as in Robin talking to you. So he had a bounty on his head because I asked for that to be spread around so we could make sure the world was safe. And now that he's been captured, the bounty, now Ashley is explaining to you, the bounty came from the townspeople here to, because they felt they needed to pitch in.
Who we saved.
Yes.
The lives of at least 4 or more of them.
Probably more than that, because we did
Yes.
go back into the catacombs of Rezimira to destroy the acolytes they left behind, but...
We saved the world.
We could
if
still
you think
talk to
about it.
Jonas, but it might come off and alienate everybody if we...
Ashley, I think you did the right thing there. That was surprisingly noble. You should be proud.
The right thing would have been killing him and taking the bounty, and neither of those things happened today.
No, I
This-
agree. It's
This is true. Those did not
not our
happen.
justice to hand out.
But we can still talk to Jonas if he wants to give up anything. That's on him. I just figured the townspeople should at least get their money back because they're not putting up a bounty for something that he was found by attacking them. So, Emmy,
Ashy.
I owe you something. Okay, I'll make it up to you.
Thank you, Ashy.
But we do need to talk to
She's
Jonas later
shake her
about
head.
the bounty. You can come with me if you would like to defend your greed. And eventually I'm going to need to stop at the tavern to talk to my contact to update them.
I
But
too stop at the tavern.
okay, well, maybe tonight after everything before we go to bed because I'm exhausted. We definitely can just have like a chill drink after running around all day. But I think your friend Carmine
Sounds
had told me
excellent.
earlier he wanted a private chat with us, and I said we could have one at the end. Is that where we're at right now?
What the hell does he want with both of you?
I had mentioned we had seen Colta's activity. So this was a Lucy and me conversation that I had told you last game. No, I didn't tell you last game because you came in.
No.
I had told... Did I tell Emmy? Is that who you told? I don't know who I told. I'm telling you now.
What's said in game right now in this moment? Because Durst heard like you're speaking with Carmine, and he's going like, "Why the hell is he speaking with both of you?"
I
Why is this
was
sad?
hanging out with Carson, and
Oh.
Carmine came off of the wagon with Constance, and I was talking to Constance. You guys have no clue who Constance is, so this is all like, I was talking to Constance.
I'm really gonna try to like. Is this the kind of thing that I can like check, like roll against deception?
No, I'm
You
not
can
being
roll
deceptive.
insight if you feel like. It's gonna be off of Ashy describing to you something that did happen, but in a strange, roundabout manner.
Yeah, I'm just kind of being like, these are all things that had happened.
Yeah, here's things
without-
that have happened.
Yeah, you can go ahead and roll if you want.
But yeah, yeah, no,
roll for concern.
Basically.
Ashy's being very forthright and straightforward, if a little scattered. But
There is... Did he roll high enough to kind of find that there is like, I have a thing I'm doing, but they don't know?
the mention of Constance seems a little off, but you don't know who that individual is. But you've also only heard about Ashy talking about contacts in the sense of criminal individuals, so you can presume some things.
Does Carmine want to speak to your contacts?
Oh no, him and Carson are working on some project, and Lucy and I, before the pie eating contest, we were all kind of talking about hanging out together and going to it. And I had talked to him about, he said life is kind of crazy right now. And I was just like, yeah, it really is crazy. And he asked me why. And I was just like, I don't know. We had a silver drake thrown at us. And he got really like instantly wanted to pull the group together and talk that exact second. But Emmy wanted to see the pie eating contest. So I wanted to make sure we.
Okay.
Good
Did
thing
that.
too.
I suppose so, yes. Oh, no worries. Alright.
Cool.
Looks like Lucy's having a rough. Strixie's having a rough day today.
Yeah, but you know, when she comes around, she comes around. Right. So basically, the information that comes in is that Ashy told Carmine that there was a dragon that was summoned, and Carmine's like, shit, fuck, that's bad. And then he basically was like, okay, if you guys know this much, I need to talk to you about other stuff that's happening. Can we do a private meeting?
Let's all talk to Carmine.
Yeah, and then Carmine said, hey, the people I want to talk to, and then he got punched. So that's kind of
Serves him right.
that's kind of the timeline that that happened. So, right.
Carmine.
Yeah. Y'all done there?
Are you done there?
I was waiting on you.
We'll be waiting on you.
All right. I'm gonna. All right. I don't want this to turn into another fist fight. We've had enough excitement.
It's not. That's just
Okay,
fine.
that's-
I've decided not to do this.
That's good. I like that decision. That helps. Both of us. Cool. I'm gonna get up so I stop yelling. And like Carmine gets up and Carson walks over and is like, "All right, hey, so you've all had the time to figure out what it was because that I think that one over there I said too that we should like talk a little bit more in private. Now that you have an understanding of the kind of things that we're talking about, yeah.
Can Carson fit in the end? Like as a.
Well, Carson, listen, I can talk to Carson any which way.
I just didn't know if you
anytime.
wanted him in the conversation, if we should actually have it somewhere
Okay.
else besides a private
let
room.
me
in the end.
let me solve this. Okay, Carson, I love you to death, but you can't fit in an inn. He goes, "Oh, I understand about that," and he goes, "That's good. So we'll chat at some other point in time. Stick around. I'll catch you up, just like I was catching you up. I'll see you soon." All right, I'll guess I'll sit outside the tavern and do something like that.
Hey, Carson, I do want to talk to you tonight sometime about herbs, if you're free.
All right, I'd love to have a drink and talk about herbs. That's
Perfect.
usually
I will.
It's one of my few goals to have happen. It's basically what I've been doing in town, anyways. So,
It's a plan. After all the chaos.
legalize weed.
Wasn't going there, but okay.
No,
Let's
Emmy
sit down
was
and
just
talk
like,
about herbs.
and I'm like, yeah, all right, cool. Let's say that. Let's get political.
Is Carson a plug? Like, what's happening?
I fucking probably. If you
I
asked
would
him, you're like,
probably
I need some
listen to
psychedelics. He'd be like, oh, I understand where I could pick some.
Yeah,
Like,
my weed guy has 4 legs. It's pretty rad, actually.
yeah.
Right, so I'm guessing we would walk to the inn and ask, since we're favored by the spouse.
Yeah,
I
Taijo
don't.
is there, and like it's kind of like busy in there, and like you guys like walk in, and people get kind of quiet, like, and they're kind of like,
Western.
it's
I
not.
say very well. I go, oh look, it's the lady who scared everyone at the festival, and I just head out the back towards the.
I would ask if
Yeah.
there was a private room that we could clear out.
Oh,
I distance myself from the group
yeah,
to
okay,
draw
alright.
the attention.
we can use my room.
I don't know if it's big enough to fit all of us into one of our actual rooms. I was thinking like a board room. I don't know if they have that
Well,
space.
I'll sit on the floor in Emmy's room. Like, would we have room?
I think we'll have room.